I hope you can hear me alright because there is so much background noise. I have a very huge, powerful fan running in the background and it's really hot here at the moment. Not that it's ever cool, it's a tropical country so it's always hot, but now it's hot. Because previously we were in the rainy season. The rainy season for me is quite romantic. A lot of people don't like it, but I like it because lots of thunderstorms. And the thunderstorms here, those are thunderstorms. They are heavy, they are chaotic, they are something else. Like the rain thunders down. If you're ever unfortunate to walk out in the rain during a thunderstorm here, it's almost like being lashed by a whip. It's very painful. And when you're indoors and you're safe, it's amazing. But when I was younger, I used to love the thunderstorms here because it meant that I could just cozy up in a room and I would just write. And I would draw, and I would create all these characters. So it was always very inspirational for me and always very, in a way, romantic. It got me into the writing zone and I always got very, very excited. I think I'm slipping on my chair. So yeah, now that we are in the hot season and it's just tropical and what's the temperature like now? Now it's 30 degrees. I don't trust that though. It's only 30 degrees, but it feels pretty hot indoors. Anyway, I've got a huge fan running in the background, so you might be able to hear it. I don't know how much of it you will be able to hear, but it was either have the fan on or have nothing on at all. And my dogs are enjoying the fan. They're absolutely loving it, sitting in front of it. And in terms of writing during a heat wave, I don't do much. I do a bit at a time because I think with the heat I get very restless and I want to sort of walk around where there's a breeze and I want to go find out what others are doing and I get very restless. So I'm very careful to give myself more breaks so I don't sort of sit there and ponder and not have any productive time. So I'm very good at scheduling breaks for myself. Where I try to do something else that's productive, like maybe watering my plants, cleaning up, just something else that I could do in a 5-minute, 10-minute window, just to give me a break, and then I come back to the writing. So I wanted to talk about storytelling today and how our environments, our cultures, all the various cultures we're from around the world, and the way we've been brought up, the stories we've been told, how they influence us. So what we tend to do as human beings is when we're looking for a story, we tend to go around looking for the hottest, best, greatest thing. We tend to go across the world to research something. We tend to, I'm still not feeling very well. We tend to go in search of something, thinking that we have to invent something really great, really powerful that's going to grab everyone's attention. I think rather than looking to the future and looking into other areas of our lives or whatever, I think that in terms of storytelling, we should always go towards our past, because I think our past has a lot more interesting stories and a lot more adventure than we'd ever realize. I don't know what culture some of you guys are from, but every culture has a story. Every culture has a deep-rooted tradition of storytelling. Every culture has that. Every culture has their mythologies, their local stories, and all these stories that were created to keep children indoors, to keep them safe at night, to make children in particular afraid of the outdoors, afraid of strangers. And in most cases, it just ended up terrifying so many of us, and we ended up being afraid of the dark, monsters in closets, that sort of thing, because as children we had very vivid imaginations, and then hearing all these stories just added to them. For example, when I was growing up, I was told several times about the story of, we call them Mummy Water, and Mummy Water is a sort of like a mermaid. She's a goddess, but she's also in serpent fish form, and she lives in the water. But in our culture, I would say Nigerian culture, but Nigeria has so many different ethnicities. She is seen as more of a goddess. Some people see her as evil. I don't see her as evil as such. I just see her as another one of the many stories we have around. Anyway, my nanny, my lovely nanny, I'll never forget her. She was from the Igbo tribe, and she was always telling me about Mami Water. And I keep coughing. Whenever we went to the beach, we're right by the Atlantic Ocean, she would say to me, oh, be careful, because Mami Water will get you. So it was to keep me from going too close to the water's edge without her. And she told me that she was the only person that could protect me from Mami Water, so I had to stick close by her. So it was very interesting. And in my head, Mami Water became real. And I'll never forget a few times when I was a kid, and we were going on a boat out to an island somewhere from the beach. I would look into the water, and in my head, I could see her. I could see this water goddess just sort of flowing through, swimming through, watching us. And I would see like a big tail, and I always saw something in the water. And for a while, I had a fear of open water, but I'm over that now. I don't really care anymore. I don't like very deep water, and I generally don't like swimming in the sea, but that's more to do with I'm a lazy swimmer. I much prefer swimming pools where, you can control the conditions, and there's not going to be a huge tide that's going to, or like a rip tide, just waiting to drown you or whatever. So she became this priestess, or this goddess. She became very real in my head, and I'll never forget when I started going to the beach. When my mum would come to the beach maybe once in 10 years, and I say, oh, be careful, there's a Mami Water there, she's going to get you. My mum was like, oh, these stories, isn't telling you these stories, she's not real. But in my mind, she was real, and she's still very, although I don't really believe in her anymore, I believe in the superstition around her, and I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. I don't believe she's actually real, but I do believe there's something out there. And it got to the point where even in the swimming pool, I would get into the pool and I would do a scan of the pool. So before I got into the pool, I would do a scan of the swimming pool from the above to see if there was anything in there. And I would make sure that it was clear before I got in. The point is that these stories that were told to us, we can just reach back to them, and we don't have to tell the exact same story, but we can use those stories as inspiration, right? We also have the story of Abiku. Now, the Abiku story is a lot darker, in my opinion. So Abiku is linked to children who die young and come back to the same mother. So they die young, and then they're born again to the same mother, and then they die again. So it's like a constant cycle of birth and rebirth. I think these stories have come about from us, maybe a time where the infant mortality rate was quite high and children were not living very long, and they were maybe dying to the same mother. Like the same mother was losing children and then getting pregnant again and losing the child again. So I think that is where the superstition, in my opinion, came from. Nonetheless, even though it's a tragic story, it's something that has inspired a lot of my work. And that story has given me so many ideas for characters, for plot lines. So it's kept my imagination very, very fertile. So, you don't have to go looking for some other mythology in another part of the world. You don't have to go looking for, because, these are just 2 stories I heard in childhood. And these were stories that were told to keep us. Actually, Abiku wasn't told to keep me in line. It was something I researched and I found out about. And I found out that there were certain people who still had a huge belief in Abiku, especially when they lost a child very young. But there's still a lot of superstitions around Abiku. But I mean, the stories I would have been told would have been maybe more Mummy Water and the bush baby. Now, the bush baby lives in the forest, and the bush baby mimics the sound of a crying baby to get you to come out. So if you're indoors in a forest and you're dwelling, you hear a baby crying in the distance, and you wonder how a baby came to be on its own at night. Has it been abandoned? Could the mother not feed it? Are the parents okay? So you, hearing this baby crying, you leave, and this is where it gets a bit diabolical. The baby lures you into the forest, deep into the forest with its cries, and then when it gets you, it devours you. Now, no one really knows what a bush baby looks like. There haven't been any real descriptions. It's supposed to represent something very dark, something very evil, and something very ultimately scary. But the bush baby does leave you dead, and all that remains are maybe a few clothes and a pile of your bones. So it's a very interesting story as well, but I think this was something else designed to keep kids indoors, because luckily I lived in the cities. I don't live in the forest or near forest, but imagine the children who lived near forests in Nigeria, who lived, in the middle of the forest, and they heard these stories. They'd never leave their homes. So it was a good way of keeping wayward children close to their parents. It was a good way of just keeping kids as close to their homes as possible. And even I, as a kid, when I wanted to do something diabolical, like maybe I got the wrong juice box or something, or someone yelled at me too harshly and I wanted to run away, I'd run away and I'd come back. I'd run away for 10 minutes. I think the most I did was 20 minutes. And I'd come back because these stories still lurked in my head and they were very, very real. So if you want ideas for stories, you just want inspiration, you want a whole world of inspiration, you don't have to look very far. Look at the stories around you, in your country, I don't know if you're from a certain ethnicity or certain parts of the world, there'll be thousands of stories there. Thousands of little mysteries that happened, and both good and bad, all incidences, all these occurrences that happened, and these happenings will help you with your inspiration. But you just have to look, listen, and delve into your childhood, and perhaps speak to your grandparents. Grandparents know all these stories, especially the more superstitious people in your family, the more people who are very, very, I would say the people who are less, I want to say westernized. I don't know if that's the right term, but they're very into the culture. The people who are very into your culture, no matter what part of the world you're in, they can tell you these stories. And these stories will terrify you. They will make you think twice before going into a dark room. But most importantly, they will inspire you, and they'll leave you with so many stories, so many plot lines for stories, so many ideas for characters. They will leave you with thousands of ideas. And a lot of my ideas have come from those three stories: the Mami Water, Bush Baby, and Abiku. And that's where a lot of my thinking comes from. Because it's always about that quiet terror, especially with my fantasy books. It's always about that quiet terror, that little bit of fear. It's not an all-out fear. It's always just a little dripping of fear. And I find that the characters I write, they don't tend to be very loud, or especially the more menacing characters, they don't tend to be very loud or menacing, or they're more quiet, they're very sinister, but they're very wicked. I hope this helps. I'll see you in the next video.